Bienvenidos, Ushamdi, and welcome, CTS231, Section 841 students, for the second 8-week term of the fall 2017 semester at Anne Arundel Community College. This is the Networking 4, or the Cisco Networking Academy Connecting Networks V6 course, and this morning's video tutorial and solution set is going to be on Packet Tracer Activity 3.6.1.2. Again, a phenomenal activity from the looks of the topology where we're going to call all of our skills into action in order to solve some of these problems here. So let's take a look at the layout that we have, and you can see here, right, we've got a Gre tunnel going on, so get ready for tunnel source and destination setup, right? We've got an ISP network here. This is our transit autonomous system. We've got the headquarters network. You've got a remote network, but it looks like this guy's no BGP. And then we've got this branch out here, right? So, I mean, this is a fantastic activity. Really excited about this activity here. So let's dive in. In the Skills Integration Challenge, XYZ Corporation uses a combination of eBGP, Ppp, Gre Tunnel, right? Including some Dhcp, some default routing. We got all kinds of stuff going on here. Exec password is Cisco, and the privilege exec is class. So interface addressing. Configure the interface addressing as needed on appropriate devices. Use the topology table to implement addressing on routers, remote, HQ, and branch. So let's get on the remote router first. So let's jump over here, give ourselves a little additional space, and I'm going to drag to the left so we don't cover up the addressing table, which it looks like we're going to need. So press enter to get started. So here we go on the remote router. We go from user exec to privilege exec, and let's say show IP interface brief. We definitely need some IP addressing information here, right? You can see we don't have anything configured yet. So let's get into global config, and the serial interface, remember we're on the remote router, right? The serial interface, we'll do that first, serial 000. We'll say no shut to bring it up online here. And then on the remote router, the IP address, and they give us the address in the addressing table, is 209.165.201.2, and we are a /30, 252. I'm double checking the IP and the subnet mask there to make sure that everything looks good. Now, this router also has a gig 00, and actually before we get off of that, we'll say, hey, description, right? And this is interface to ISP network. Always a good practice. Put a quick description in there. Interface gig 00, right? We'll throw a description in here that says my LAN network. All right, and we're going to say no shut. We're going to bring that interface up. And the IP address is 192, let's go. IP address is 192.168.20.1, and it should be a 24, 255.0, and it is. And so we've got that in there. And there's also a tunnel. So we'll come back to the tunnel. We'll take these in turn. So that is going to do it for remote right now. So now let's go over to HQ. So here's our HQ router. Let's go ahead and give ourselves some additional room. We can cover the ISP up, right, because we don't need to see much of that. I don't believe we're going to be configuring the ISP. So let's go from user exec to privilege exec, show IP, interface brief. And again, right, nothing is configured for us here. So let's get into global config. Let's get into interface serial 000. We're going to say no shut, interface serial 000. We're going to say no shut. IP address here on this serial interface for HQ is 209.165.201.18. 209.165.201.18, 255.255.252 for a /30. And we already did our no shut there. And let's throw a quick description on here, right? So this is interface to ISP. And then we'll go into gig 00. And we'll throw a quick description on here, and we'll just say LAN network. And the IP address here is going to be on HQ is 192.168.30.1, and it'll be a /24, right? Because we need some usable IPs behind this. And then let's go with a no shut here and bring that interface up. All right, so that takes care of the IP addressing on HQ. We don't have the tunnel action yet, right? We'll deal with the tunnel when we get to it because we're probably going to need to do something additional. Now let's take care of branch, right? So here we go. Let's stretch this out a little bit. Let's get the branch taken care of. And we come over here to the command line interface. Let me give myself a little more room. All right, so let's go from user exec to privilege exec, show IP interface brief, and again, nothing, right? So we go into global config, and let me take a quick look here. Yeah, so we've got a serial interface. So interface serial 000, we're going to say no shut. What's our description here, right? So this is interface to ISP, and we're going to throw an IP address on the branch, IP address 209.165.201.22, and this is a /30 with a 252, and we've got one too many D's in there. There we go, and we already said no shut, and now let's get into interface gig 00, where we'll say no shut, throw a quick description on here. This is my LAN interface, and we'll say IP address 192.168.10.1/24, right? Because we've got other nodes behind that need to have addressing, and so that takes care of the addressing. So configure PC1 and PC3 to use DHCP. So let's get PC1 up here. We'll go to the desktop, and we're going to say use DHCP. Now, they're not going to get an address right now because I think it said we need to, yeah, we're going to have to configure DHCP. PC1, PC3 for DHCP. We'll plug this in right now, and we may have to flip to static and flip back when DHCP gets configured. We'll see, because they're going to end up with Ppp addresses, those 169.254s. Excuse me. Okay, SSH. Configure HQ to use SSH for remote access. And so let me slide this a little more to the side there. All right, so we're going to set the module here. So let's go ahead and first do show run. Is the domain name set? And we do have a domain name set, right? Because remember, in order to do SSH, we have to have that domain name set to do our crypto key generate command. So let's set the modulus. Let's get out of that mode there. So we're going to say crypto key generate RSA and modulus, and they're going to make us enter the modulus in here at 2048. All right, and can I change the version? Yeah, so we want IP SSH version 2. Now, we're probably not going to get any points for that, and actually we did. Okay, so because it does, okay, it does ask later on for us to do that. So username is admin. So username, admin, password, and let's see is secure access. So I'm curious to see if they're wanting secret or secure or password. So let's say secure access, and let's see what happens here. Do we get any points for that? We do. So they just wanted the password. They didn't want the MD5 version. Only SSH should be allowed on the VTY line. So line VTY 0 to 15, transport input SSH, transport output SSH, right? So that should take care of the VTY lines and modify the SSH defaults, right? So we did that. So we said IP SSH version 2. And a 60-second timeout with 2 retries. And you'll see, whoops, IP SSH. You'll see that that was the other option we had here, or the other options. We had the timeout, right, in seconds, so 60-second timeout value. And then IP SSH authentication retries will be 2. And that should do it for our SSH configuration on HQ. Now, we've got some PPP action here, right? Configure the WAN link from branch, let's come back here, from branch to the ISP3 router using Ppp encapsulation. So that's going to be interface serial 000, and we're going to go ahead and say, let's see what we have on there right now. It should only be the IP address and our description, and that's what we've got. So do show IP interface brief. We should be seeing, and let's get some more room here so that we don't deal with the wrapping text. We should see what? Exactly. If we need to be running PPP and the other side's already running PPP, we are up at layer 1, down at layer 2, because what are we running right now? Do show interface serial 000. Our encapsulation is the Cisco default of HDLC. So let's change that. Encap Ppp. And let's see here. Configure the branch. And CHAP authentication. So Ppp authentication CHAP. And we're going to have to create a username and password. So let's punch out of here. So username is going to be ISP3 and the password of Cisco. Now, I'm going to put in here password because this is how you're supposed to do it, right? But let's see if we get points for that, and we do. Good. So they do want the proper input here. They don't want you to put secret. Remember, secret will not work in the real world, right? It has to be password because you can't hash a hash, right? It's not going to work. Configure the WAN link from HQ to ISP2, and we're going to do the same thing, it looks like here, with some Ppp do show IP interface brief. Let's look at that interface. Yeah, we're up, down, right? So we need Ppp, so interface serial 000, encap Ppp, Ppp authentication, CHAP, and we need our username. So username, and this is going to be ISP-2 with a password of Cisco. And we should get some points for that. We do. Okay, good. All right, so the Ppp configuration is done, right? Ppp, very, very straightforward, right? Change the encap to Ppp, declare Ppp authentication CHAP, create the username and password for the other neighbor router, and off we go. All right, so now we're going to come to the branch router here. We've got some DHCP work, right? A little review from previous Cisco courses. So a DHCP pool. So IP DHCP pool is going to be called, what are we going to name it here for the branch line using the following requirements? Exclude the first, well, okay, let's deal with that first. So IP DHCP excluded address. We're going to exclude the first 5 IP addresses in the range of the branch LAN. And the branch LAN is 192.168.10.1. And then we put our high range value. So the first 5, 192.168.10.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be excluded, and we should bump a couple points, and we do. And I'm squinting, trying to read the instructions here. Exclude the first 5 IPs. The case-sensitive name, that was what I was looking for. IP DHCP pool is just called LAN, L-A-N, right? So there's the pool name. Include the DNS server attached to the HQ LAN. Okay, so DNS server is going to be 192.168.30.250. We need our network statement in here for the 192.168.10.0, and this is where we put our network mask, right? Because that is the LAN network, that 192.168.10.0/24. And what else are they looking for here? Include the DNS server. Oh, so interesting, right? So if you take a look at the options, right, we've got default router. So they tell you to set up DHCP, right? And Cisco is expecting you to know that, hey, you need to put the network statement in there. And what else are we going to need? Yeah, we're definitely going to need that default router, 168.10.1. I was looking to see if they're going to ask you to do that. Include the DNS server attached to the HQ LAN as part of the configuration. So there we go. And then we get the default router in there. So now let's come over to PC1 and let's see if PC1, all right, fantastic. Take a look at that. They picked up the DNS server, right? No default gateway though. So let's go static and let's flip back. Right, force it to sort of re-request, and there we go, right? Now we pick it up. So kind of a little tricky here. They say configure those to use DHCP as part of the requirements area. So if we did that first, my guess is you're going to get either a quad 0 default gateway or some bogus value that's not usable here. All right, so let's check things out. Can I ping my default gateway from PC3, 192.168.10.1? All right, fantastic. So we've got connectivity there. DHCP is working. Configure PC1, okay, on HQ, right? So they're going to give us a little exercise here with a little action with DHCP. On HQ, configure DHCP, exclude the first 10 IP addresses. So we can do that. So IP DHCP excluded address, and the LAN on HQ is .30, 192.168.30.1 to 192.168.30.10. And I don't know where all those periods came from there. 192.168.30.10. I've been having some issues with Packet Tracer. I've had to reinstall it about 5 times because it keeps crashing on me. All right, so there's our excluded, and that was just simply that the video that we previously did just finished exporting there to a M4P or MP4 format so I could upload it. All right, so we've got our IP DHCP excluded address statement in here for the first 10 IPs. Case sensitive name, IP DHCP pool, the name is LAN. And so what do we need in here, right? Well, let's see if they want us to use the DNS server. Yep, so we're going to say DNS server is 192.168, and this is the HQ LAN, .30.250. So this is local here to me, local to the hosts that'll be on PC3. Or on the HQ LAN. We're going to need what else? We're going to need the default router, 192.168.30.1, right? That's our default router. We've got the DNS server, and finally, we need to put in 192.168.30.0 with a 255.0/30 subnet mask. And I'm just reading here again to make sure that's it. And that should be it. So now let's roll over to PC3 where we did DHCP before and take a look. We ended up with that Ppp, right, address that is bogus. So we're going to flick to static. We're going to flip back to DHCP so that we can re-request and take a look at that. Fantastic. So we've got the right information, it appears. Let's test. Can we ping our default gateway, 192.168.30.1? Brilliant. All right, brilliant. We're working. So DHCP is done. Now we're down to default routing. So configure remote with a default route to the ISP1 router. And again, this is probably the most common thing you'll see when you're single homed to the ISP. And this is a single home scenario here because we only have one way to get to the ISP. That's it. Right, so we need nothing more than a default route. And is it asking for use the next hop IP? Show IP interface brief. And I want to say it's a /30, but let me check up here with ISP. Let's make sure that the ISP serial 000, it is 201.1. So I just wanted to check that and make sure. So let's go ahead, get into global config. We're going to say IP route with a quad zeros. And the next hop IP is 209.165.201.1. We should also see the meter on our completion percentage maybe bump a little bit there. And we do. That was a 3-pointer. So configure remote with a default route to the ISP1 router. Use the next hop IP as an argument. And we did that. Now we get into our eBGP configuration. Again, remember, at the CCNAILA, very simple, very straightforward, right? Not difficult to do. So let's start with the branch. And how do we do BGP? Well, first I need to see what the autonomous system numbers are. Okay, so we'll come right up below that. So how do we do BGP? It's very, very simple. So configure branch to peer with ISP3. So router BGP 65010. That is my branch autonomous system number. Who's my neighbor in this BGP configuration? Well, it's going to be ISP3's serial 000 interface. So we're going to say neighbor and ISP3. Let me make sure I get this right. Serial 000.209.165.201.21. And what is their remote autonomous system number? It is 65535, 65535. And that is not an autonomous system number that you would typically use. I mean, you could, but typically you don't see that used. 65535. And let me see here. Let's scroll down and make sure. I'm assuming they're going to want something to be advertised. Yes. So configure the branch with eBGP. We did. Configure it to peer with ISP3. We did. Add branch's internal network to BGP. And so my branch internal network is this guy right here. And so we've done that, right? We did that in the exercise right before this. So 192.168.10.0 mask of 255 dot 0. Now, do show IP BGP summary. I haven't seen anything saying, so we didn't get a message telling us that the peering is up, but as you can see, it is up. So now let's see, do show IP route BGP. What am I seeing in my routing table? So no BGP learned NLRI just yet, but that's okay. That's about to change here. So HQ is going to peer with eBGP as well. So we come over here, and we are going to say router BGP, and I covered up my autonomous system number. Okay, router BGP, BGP 65020, right? Who is my neighbor? Well, my neighbor is, did not want to do that. My neighbor is ISP2. And ISP2's serial connection to me is 201.17. So neighbor 209.165.201.17, and that should be correct. The remote autonomous system is 65535, right? And now we are going to advertise our network. And actually, before I even advertise my network, I can say do show IP BGP, right? We don't have any information. What about a do show IP BGP summary? Do we see a peering? We do, and I've received 4 prefixes, right? So do show IP route BGP, and it doesn't show anything. So this is definitely something sneaky with packet tracer here, to where it looks like it's going to pre-can that number, because I should be seeing do show IP route. I should be seeing some BGP learned information if it's telling me I've received 4 prefixes. But let's get our network in here. So 192.168.30.0 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. And let's come back down here and do show IP BGP neighbor. Okay, good. It does show the neighbor information, right? It's an external link, and we are up, active for 20 minutes, and that's not correct. So yeah, it looks like it's going to pre-can this information in there for us, so that's okay. All right, add HQ's internal network, configure HQ to peer with ISP2. So we're good with all of our eBGP. So do show IP route BGP. I should be seeing BGP information here, and I am not. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because that information should be showing up. All right, so let's do the GRE tunnel. So configure remote with a tunnel interface and send IP traffic over GRE to HQ. So again, tunnel interface, super straightforward, right? We remember our tunnel interface activity. So how are we going to handle this? Well, interface, tunnel, and they want us to use tunnel 10. Right, so interface tunnel 10. So tunnel 10 has changed up. Now, what do we need in our tunnel interface? Well, we need the source. Well, first let's get the IP address of the tunnel. So the IP address on the remote side is 10.1.1.1, and it's a /32. 255.255.255.255.252. So we've got our IP address. So now, what other tunnel settings do I need? Well, we'll go ahead and do this anyway. I'll say tunnel mode GRE, or is it IPGRE? I can never remember. Yeah, GRE. And see, you can do IPv6 over IP GRE. I'm going to put this in here. I'll be curious to see if you get points for this, because that's the default setting. So let's see, do we bump from 72 up at all? Okay, we don't. So that's a good thing, because remember, that's the default. Okay, and then all we need, remember, we set the IP of the tunnel interface. We set the mode, right? Out of best practice, you know, out of just due diligence, we do the mode just to make sure, tunnel mode GRE IP, and then we put the source and destination, and that's it. So tunnel source is, and let's make sure, the exit interface, and that's what I was looking for, that they wanted the exit interface, and then the tunnel destination. right? The tunnel destination, I'm double checking here, appropriate address and information, tunnel source exit interface, tunnel destination with the appropriate endpoint IP. And what is the appropriate endpoint IP from remote? Because the tunnel's coming over here to HQ. So it's going to be the IP address of HQ's outside interface. And the IP address of that outside interface is 209.165.201.18. So tunnel destination, 209.165.201.18, right? And you can see the tunnel state changed to up, and we picked up some points throughout there. And that's it, right? GRE tunnel, super, super simple to do the GRE tunnel. All right, now let's come over to HQ, which is going to be the other side. And are they having us do, yeah, right on. They're going to have us do OSPF over this tunnel. If you've watched the other activities, you are golden. You know what we're going to be doing here. All right, excuse me. So on the HQ router, interface, tunnel 10. Let me make sure that HQ is going to be the same. All right, tunnel 10. Right, so we'll say tunnel mode GRE IP, just, for good measure, we'll put that in there, even though that is the default. I want to make sure we're not missing points for something that we're doing here. So tunnel mode GRE IP, we'll put our IP address on here, 10.1.1.2, and let's vet that. Yep, 10.1.1.2. And we've got a /30, 255, 252. And then again, it's super easy. We add the IP, we put the mode, and then we put our tunnel source. We know that that's going to be that outgoing interface, and we put our tunnel destination. Tunnel destination, which is going to be 209, do show IP interface brief. Remember, the publicly reachable 209.165.201.2. 209.165.201.2. And there is my tunnel destination address, right? So at this point, we should see do show IP interface brief. Are we up? We are not. We are up, down. So something is wrong. Do show run, and let's see what that may be here. All right, our tunnel source is correct. Let me validate that. Is it serial 000? It is. Tunnel destination is definitely the 209.165.201.2. 165.201.2, that is correct. MTU got dropped in there for us auto-magically. And my tunnel IP, tunnel 10, I did get the tunnel number right, tunnel 10, is 10.1.1.2, and it is a /30. So we've got everything we need there. Let's check remote. Did we make a mistake over on the remote side? Do show run. All right, let's make sure. And the HQ router is 209.165.201.18. So that is correct. Tunnel source is serial 000. That is correct. MTU 10.1.1.1. And that is correct. And we got the tunnel 10 number right. So we should, let me see if I can ping over to 209.165.201.18. Aha. So there's some sort of routing issue, and we cannot reach, do show IP route, we cannot reach 209.165. Let me make sure that ISP1's, that is the right address for ISP1. So I've definitely got a typo here, ISP1, 209.165.201.1, and that is correct. But we're not seeing any BGP information. Let me double check. Branch HQ, can we get into, yeah, we should not be able, or we should not have to configure the ISP. All right, so for some reason we are not seeing, we're not getting that information. And were we supposed to add the internal network and the peer? All right, so the tunnel is not seeing that information. So let's move forward here. Exit interface. I'm just looking things over real quickly. So I have a sense that it's obviously something to do with the routing information, right? So what I'm going to do is let's do this. Let me save the configuration here. Show IP interface brief, show IP route. Yes, so we don't see show IP BGP. Show IP BGP summary. So we're not getting the information, even though it's showing me show run. All right, let's double check here on the BGP config and see where that information may be. BGP log number changes 209.165.201.17.65.535, and we are advertising the 192.168.30/24, and that's correct. On the remote side, do show run, or I'm sorry, I think remote's the static. Let's check the branch side over here. Do show run. And I'm hoping that it wasn't that it was waiting for me to exit out, because that is not required. Let's get down to our BGP config. So 65010, and this is 65020, so that was correct. And I'm just validating things here to make sure I've got everything I need. No synchronization. 209.165.201.21. 209 on ISP3, 209.165.201.21, 65.535, and the network I'm advertising is 192.168.10, and that is correct. Now, when we look at these two configurations, on those two routers, we see the same thing, right? So everything looks good from a BGP perspective. So for some reason, it appears that that information, and we're not learning anything. We should be learning the 192.168.30 over here at branch, and HQ should be learning the information. And so it's not advertising that information. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. Let's reload these routers just to make sure. Reload. And I'm going to reload this one as well. Let's just make sure, right mem, reload, because I'm going to have that information. All right, let's see if it's any different now. Show IP route, show IP route. So we still don't have any BGP learned information there. Show IP route. No BGP learned information there, and we can't get into the ISP router. So here's what I'm going to do before we look at check results. So let's go ahead and do this. So OSPF routing, the remote LAN should have connectivity to the HQ LAN. Configure OSPF across the Gre tunnel. So right now, we don't have that. Show IP interface brief. And you can see that we're up down because we don't have that reachability information that we're requiring. And I must have missed a step somewhere along the line here. Okay, so let's do the OSPF piece. We're not going to see it come up, but we'll configure the OSPF piece right now. And we're going to do that over that Gre tunnel because we've done that before. So let's get into a global config on HQ. And we're going to say router OSPF 100. And again, we should continue to see the adding of points here. Remote should advertise the LAN network via OSPF. So 192.168 on HQ.30.0, 0.0.0.0, oops, sorry, missed a 0 there, 30.0.0.0.255 area, and I'm sure they're going to want us to use area 0. They don't actually give us an area number to use, but we're going to go with area 0. And that's exactly what they wanted, was area 0. They don't say that, but that's what it should be. And then it says, should advertise a LAN. Disable OSPF updates on appropriate interfaces. So in this, oops, sorry. Bring that back. And this is an interesting one, right? So on the HQ router, we would say passive interface serial 000, because we don't need updates going to that interface. We would also say passive interface gig 00, because I don't have any OSPF speakers over here. So we passive both of those interfaces, and that is going to be it from an OSPF setup. And we'll do the same thing over on the, oops, sorry, they want it on branch? No, remote, should be remote. There we go. On remote. So on the remote side, router OSPF 100, right? We're going to say passive interface serial 000, passive interface gig 00, and then we'll throw our network statement in here for the 192.168.20.0.0.0.255 area 0. And that is going to take us to 96. HQ should be configured to form an adjacency. Advertise a LAN. We did passive interfaces, although it didn't ask us to. That's okay. And so we're at 96. So the 4 points we're missing, I must have overlooked something. So instead of trudging through, let's look for the red X route. OSPF route 0. So it looks like OSPF. Interesting. So the points appear to be OSPF points, and it's saying route oh, because we're not going to see, my apologies, we're not going to see the adjacency form, right? But it would help if I put in the network statement for the network 10.1.1.0. Boy, senior moment on my part, .3 area 0. Yeah, so I'm convinced myself, yeah, we're not going to see the adjacency form, and so I just skipped over the network statements that are going to be required there, 10.1.1.0, 0.0.0.3, because again, we have to run the OSPF process on the GRE point-to-point tunnel interfaces. Right now, I will be shocked if OSPF comes up. We should not see OSPF come up because, right, we don't have, the tunnel isn't working. And I'm looking for the instructions tab. There it is. And we should see, yeah, so this is kind of interesting, right? So take a look at what we've got here. We've got the 100%, and it has a little asterisk there. And I'm not sure if we've seen that before. So we have 100%, but we really don't, right? Because this is broke. It is not working. But yet everything it asked us to do, we did. So what I'll do is I'll wrap the video up here, but I'll tinker with this afterward to see if there's something that we can do to bring this GRE tunnel up. Because again, there's some things that are going on that I don't think we have control over. We're not learning any NLRI, right? We're not learning the information that we need to be seeing. And were we supposed to, hold on a second, a default route? So we do the default, because here's the problem, right? The problem is that we should be getting these 209 addresses. We should be able to reach those 209 addresses. And we aren't able to. Are we supposed to do a default? Let me, hold on, configure remote with a default. So we don't have defaults. Do show IP route. So do show IP route. Yeah, so here's what I'm going to do this, right? We got the 100, right? But I want to get this working. So IP route, let's do quad zeros, 000. And I'm going to say serial 000. So I'm just going to default route, and that's fine. And then let's do a default route over here on branch. I'm just going to throw default routes in here, right? So IP route quad 0, 0, 0, and 0, oops, 0.0. oops, sorry, and serial 000. And that's fine. So, because again, it's the GRE tunnel portion that's not working. I want to see do show IP route. So can I ping over to 209.165.201.1? Because I should be taking the default route out. And what's interesting is when I say do show IP route, where is my default route? Right? Do show IP route. I think that this may be a bug with this packet tracer activity because I just put a default route in here, do show run, and let's make sure it's in there. Yeah. And there it is. But I'm not seeing a static default route candidate in the HQ table. Do show IP BGP. Yeah, do show IP BGP summary. Yeah, again, so there's some things that are not kosher here. And this is one of them, showing that I've got 4 received prefixes, but when I say do show IP BGP, I have no received prefixes. So maybe resetting the activity would fix that, but that is why we can't form this tunnel, because the tunnel source and destination IPs, which are these outside publicly routable 209s, right? There's no reachability here. I can't get between these two interfaces, so unfortunately, we're not going to be able to bring that up. But again, we end up with 100 anyway. All right, so I will tinker with this a little more, see if maybe I can tweak it to get it to work. But at this point, that is going to conclude Packet Tracer Activity 3.6.1.2, our Skills Integration Challenge. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys on Tuesday night.